The Distance Between Us, Part 2. Excerpt from The Distance Between Us. We lay down to sleep, even though it was only 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But that night we were attempting our third border crossing, and Poppy said we needed to rest as much as possible. Tonight we wouldn't be sleeping, we'd be running through the night. This is the last time, kids, Poppy warned us. He lay down on the floor beside our bed and said, "If we don't make it this time, I'm going to have to send you back to my mother's." "No, Poppy, please," I said. The thought of going back to Abuela Elvia's house filled me with dread. I knew it was my fault. If I hadn't gotten sick the first time, we probably would have made it. If I had walked faster, run faster, not complained about the heat or my hunger, or hadn't asked for water, maybe we would have made it. If my molar hadn't been hurting so much and hadn't whined about the pain, maybe we could have made it. "I'm sorry, kids. I'm going to lose my job if I miss any more days." He said he didn't have any money to keep paying for food and the motel. He barely had been able to borrow enough money to pay the smuggler to take us across the border, and that money was being quickly spent. A big chunk of it had gone to the cab driver he'd paid to catch up to our bus. "Don't make us go back there again," Mago said in a voice so soft. I didn't think he'd hurt her. But after a minute or two, Poppy finally looked at us. I grabbed Mago and Carlos's hands and squeezed them. I thought about going back to Abuela Elvia's house, back to being an unwanted, parentless child, back to waiting, always waiting to hear from Poppy so far away in El Otro Lado. He sighed and said, "Tonight will be our last time. If we don't make it, you're going back. Now go to sleep. You'll need all your strength tonight." But I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about these past 5 days and how quickly they'd passed. I kept thinking about Mommy, little Betty, my grandmother, and I couldn't help feeling torn about our situation. I was happy Poppy hadn't left me behind, but I was also sad about leaving my little sister. I felt as if we'd abandoned her. We did. Why did it have to be so hard? I had to leave my mother, my little sister, my abuelita, to have my father. But now, even that was in jeopardy. If we didn't cross this third time, I would lose my father. Please, God, please give me wings. Poppy woke us up at sunset, and we took a bus to the meeting point where the smuggler was waiting for us. We crossed the dirt path, slipped under the hole in the fence, and immersed ourselves into the darkness and quickly fallen around us. "Remember," Poppy said, "this is the last time." He followed the smuggler. We followed our father in a single file, Mago, me, and then Carlos in the rear. We walked along a small path. The thin moon curved like a smile. If the moon is smiling at us, it must be a good sign, right? Far in the distance, I could see two red lights, like evil eyes. I shivered. "They're just antennas," the coyote said when Carlos asked about the lights. Every muscle in my body was tense, every noise, like the chirping of crickets, the wing rustling the branches of the bushes, and the sound of our labored breathing frightened me. I thought those sounds were coming from La Migra. I thought that somewhere in the endless darkness, La Migra was there, ready to catch us and send us back to Tijuana, and ultimately back to Abuela Elvia's house. "Reina, hurry!" Poppy hissed. I sprinted to catch up to the group. I hadn't even noticed that Carlos had passed me. At first, it sounded like a kitten purring. Then the sound got louder, and the smuggler said, "Run!" In the darkness, I could see him take off without us. My father grabbed my hand and ran too. I couldn't keep up with his strides and I fell. He scooped me up and ran with me in his arms. Mago and Carlos followed behind. A little light shone in the distance, and the purring got louder. "What's happening, Poppy?" Margot asked. "Helicopter." Carlos tripped on a rock, but Poppy kept on running and didn't wait for him to get up. "Wait, Poppy!" I said, but Poppy was like a frightened animal. He scampered through the buses, trying to find a place to hide. Get down, the smuggler said from somewhere in the darkness. Poppy immediately dropped to the ground, and we became lizards, rubbing our bellies against the cold, damp earth, trying to find a place to hide. Pebbles dig into my knees. I couldn't see Carlos in the darkness, and I cried and told Poppy to wait, but he pushed me into a little cave made of overgrown bushes. Mago and I sat by Poppy's side, and he held us tight while we listened to the roaring of the helicopter right above us. The beams of the searchlight cut through the branches of the bushes. A beam of light fell onto my shoe. I yanked my foot back and wondered if the people in the helicopter had seen my foot. I tried to hold my breath, thinking even the smallest sound could give us away. Please, God, don't let them see us. Please, God, let us arrive safely in El Otro Lado. I wanted to live in the perfect place. I want to have a father. I want to have a family. Finally, the helicopter left. We couldn't hear the chirping of the crickets once more. I'm sorry, we could hear the chirping of the crickets once more, a howling of a coyote in the distance, and then we tensed up when we heard the sound of the branches breaking. Poppy poked his head out of the cave and sighed in relief. We came out, and Carlos and the smuggler were standing right outside our cave. Carlos smiled, proud of himself for not getting caught. You should have you should have seen him crawl under the bushes, the smuggler said. He's a real iguana, that one. We continued our journey in the darkness, and luckily no more helicopters came by. I clung to my father's hand and to Mago's hand on the other side. I didn't want to lose them in the darkness. We walked and walked, stumbling over rocks, feeling the branches of the bushes grasping at us, as if trying to hold us back. Then the smuggler said, We're here. Welcome to the U.S. I looked around in the dim light of the moon, and I saw some bushes, the same rocks, the same dirt, the same sky. What do you mean, we're here? I wondered.